name's Tori. I talk about personal growth and development, wellness, and just whatever I want to talk about. I'm 30 years old, and it's been on my heart to talk about this for a bit, but it's something I've been hesitant to talk about because it's definitely something that I want to keep in the past, and it consumed my life for so long and took up way too much time and energy and space that now that I've overcome it, I want to leave it there. It's honestly even hard to want to associate with it anymore or identify with ever having struggled with it, but it is a big part of my story. It was a big part of my life, and it always will be, and I don't want to deny the history of it because I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, and I've met so many incredible people. A lot of my best friends today are people that I've met in treatment and live fulfilling lives and have overcome as well. It really has brought me through an incredibly beautiful journey, and regardless, I am grateful for the experiences I've had because I do get to share them as a testimony, but also help other people in my career, in my life, kind of sort through it and have a better understanding of this type of illness. So I struggled with an eating disorder for almost 10 years. I don't want to talk too much about behaviors, but my diagnosis was anorexia with purging. This is actually a lot more uncomfortable to talk about than I thought. There was a point in my life where I was really comfortable talking about it because it was part of my identity, but I don't identify with it anymore, so I haven't talked about it in so long. Wow. So, yeah, so I struggled from 14, 15 until maybe I was 23. Yeah. So I'm 30 now. It's been over 5 years since I've really had the eating disorder voice. I'm not exactly sure how much I'm gonna be able to talk about today because I'm noticing it's not that easy anymore. Um, but bear with me. Part of the reason why I wanted to make this video is because it's been coming up quite a bit in my personal and professional life. Some of my friends that still struggle or my clients that struggle, and I wish that I could explain how I overcame it. I wish I had a step by step, and I think that's why I was exploring this more. So I journaled a little bit about it, and I was like, how exactly did I get over that? How did I get through it? And what is the difference between eating the way that you should, not using behaviors, and yet still struggling with that voice. So in terms of eating disorder treatment, I've been in all levels of care within that time frame from I think I started going to treatment maybe at 16. And my last time I was in eating disorder treatment was when I was 23. So about 8 years of being in and out of hospitals, inpatient, PHP, IOP, residentials. I traveled across the country multiple times to go to residential treatment, which is you're there for an extended period of time. I was just bouncing back and forth throughout all the levels of care for years. And, some months I would do really good and it would be sustainable. And some months I couldn't get a grip. And I spent half my junior year and half my senior year of high school in treatment. I almost wasn't able to graduate because of how much school I missed. I had to leave my sophomore year early. In the middle of it, I had to go into the hospital, and then I tried to go back, and I couldn't stay, and I had to go back to the hospital again, and just kind of like that whole sophomore year I had to redo because I left. And so I've also lost quite a few friends from this disease. When you're in and out of treatment for that long, obviously you meet people, you make a lot of friends, and you stay in touch because it's personal. These people you live with, you're roommates with, you grow a different bond than you do with anyone else. So I've had quite a few friends pass away from eating disorders. So when I think about my life and my life with my eating disorder, I sometimes I even look back and I wonder, like, how did I get over that, or get through that? And I've always I always had a hard time saying recovered, like with the ed at the end, past tense, because throughout my time with it, I had used that phrase before and then relapsed. So I had been so careful to just not use that phrase anymore. And you never know what the future holds, like in perfect storms, things can happen. And I definitely talked about that in my other video. But the thing with an eating disorder specifically is that it's a commitment. Getting sick is a commitment. And the most helpful way to think about an eating disorder that makes the most sense to everybody, especially like the person struggling with it, is to personify it. So if we personify it as this like toxic entity or toxic relationship, that's what the mental illness is. It's a mental illness. So the guise is food, weight, body image. That's the guise. The underneath stuff is like trauma, self-esteem, self-worth, beliefs about ourselves, negative self-talk. So that being said, because it's a commitment, and because a lot of these things have to do with like our beliefs about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves, once we work through that stuff, like the trauma and stuff, and we change, the whole CBT of it all, like the whole behaviorism of it all, where once we change how we think about things and how we feel about things and what we believe about ourselves, and also like building new habits and instilling a new lifestyle, if we think about it from a neuroplasticity level, we can look at it like neural pathways in the brain are like roads, like paved roads. So every behavior, every habit, every negative thought paves the road. We're digging out the grass and the mud, we're paving the tar and the cement down, we're waiting for it to dry, and so then it's easier and then it's like second nature to do those behaviors, and it becomes that habit. That road is now paved. Same way when we work on ourselves and our mental health, the for me, CBT is like what really changed my life and saved my life for me. That's what worked best for me, because once my beliefs about myself changed, and my thoughts changed, and my feelings changed, my triggers and urges were changed, it just changed the game for me. And I was able to then use logic. I was then able to DBT myself through it better, using like the logic to overpower the emotional side of it all. So when we use those tools and skills, that paves the road. And then the less we use eating disorder behaviors, then those other roads that were paved, they start to become abandoned. Then the obstacles will get in the path, like trees will fall down, or grass will grow through the road, or the roads will start to crack or there will be potholes, you're less likely to then go down those roads. And you're more likely to go down the ones you're currently paving. So that's like a very oversimplified um, version, but that's a big part of it. So, because of that, even if I were to have an urge or a desire to use eating disorder behaviors again, those roads are not accessible. Like at this point in my they would be accessible, but they would be a lot harder because everything's a choice. But I would have to work hard. There's already like caution signs around it. There's orange cones like blocking my way. So I would have to actively, make the road pavable again, which takes a long time. Like it takes like weeks to months for the eating disorder to develop into something that's deadly. It takes an overlap of behaviors that are consistent over a period of time. And I don't mean to frame it as like it's a choice at all. It's not a choice to get an eating disorder usually, but it is our choice to recover from one. Like it's not always a choice to get addicted to things. A lot of people drink, a lot of people smoke, but some people are more vulnerable to addiction, and you can't choose if you're that person. Sometimes things just happen. So, you could argue like little choices along the way. Yeah, well, just don't drink, or just don't do that drug, or just don't, skip meals. But so we often don't know what we're getting into until it's too late. And so it's not, most people don't actively think, oh yeah, let me go get an eating disorder or let me go get addicted to heroin. Like, that's not fair and it's not accurate to make those assumptions. And at the same time, we are still responsible for our own recovery and to make choices towards that once we start to notice opportunities of control. I say all that to say that I do think that it might be fair to say that I'm recovered because with the ED at the end, like the past tense, because I don't have urges, I don't have the eating disorder voice, and I haven't done behaviors in years, and it's not something I think about on a day-to-day basis. It's not something that goes through my mind. I love food now. I I like live for food, which is really scary to remember how bad it was and how much I hated food and how much I hated to eat. Like it really was sad. I mean, I would sit at the kitchen table with my parents for hours, and they would, not let me leave until I finished, and I would throw dishes across the floor and break that. Like it was a bad. It was really scary. I got to a point where I couldn't eat, um, or else I would get sick involuntarily because I couldn't take the food. It was like too much. My stomach shrunk, and it's not pretty. I mean, I was getting sick so much that all these teeth are fake now because they all like were rotting and breaking out of my head. So it's not a pretty disease at all. It took so much from me. It took friends from me. It took time from me. It took my life. It almost took my life from me. So how did I overcome that? Well, part of it too, and I'm not gonna be able to fit this into all one video. I'll probably have to make a few, but part of it is that the eating disorder gives you something. The eating disorder serves a purpose, and otherwise we wouldn't engage in these things. Otherwise we wouldn't self-harm, we wouldn't do drugs, we wouldn't XYZ unhealthy behavior. Because it serves a function, a specific function, And for a lot of us, it serves a bunch of functions. Um, it could provide relief, it could provide control, it could provide comfort, it could provide discipline, it could provide an escapism, it could provide a high type of feeling. To me, it also, and this is going to sound like kind of sick, but in the form, in terms of like the escapism, like the eating disorder was something that was mine, and um, so the eating isn't the only thing I struggled with. I struggled with like a Pandora's box of like unhealthy coping skills, right? So for me, all of my unhealthy behaviors lived in this like attic, which was like my safe place. That was my escapism. So I would go to the attic in my mind, right, to escape from everything, from feeling, from being, from thinking, from experiencing reality. So I go in my attic and go in that little Pandora's box and pick a little unhealthy behavior and use it to just drown out whatever I was going through in my life. And it felt good to have somewhere to go. It felt good to have something that was mine that nobody can touch and nobody could take away from me. And that it was a weird type of like safety and comfort that it gave me. It was like my friend, it was my confidant, it was helping me be more disciplined, it was reminding me of how much I need certain traits that it could offer me, and focusing on the weight, the food, the body image of it all served as a major distraction to whatever else that I was losing control over or didn't want to address or deal with. So part of that escapism, it serves as a high, it serves as a release. It's kind of like taking an anxiety pill in a way. Like, you use a behavior, you're like, okay, I could chill. I could go back to, it like takes you to like your baseline again. Um, and this is like, eating disorders are so complex. Like, this is not even the surface, I feel like. This is like just scratching the surface of it all, right? Like, there's a lot that we could go into and talk about. Um, and I'm also only talking about my eating disorder, right? Because everyone that's had one or has one has their own experience and story. Um, but over the years, especially going to treatment, when we talk about it was mine and no one could take it away from me, well, people were then starting to try to take it away from me. My parents, my friends, everyone who cared about me, the doctors. Um, it was like a tug of war. And then it became a tug of war in my own head. Um, because the eating disorder wasn't only my friend, but it was also my enemy. It was also my abuser in a way, because it was just telling me such awful, awful things about myself to give me motivation to continue to hurt myself and to continue to convince me why I didn't deserve something as basic as food that everyone deserves. There's a lot of self-hatred with my eating disorder. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but for me, it took a lot of self-hatred for me to get to those places to engage in certain behaviors, like with specific behaviors. I just remember like it was an expression of that self-hatred. It was, and when you start to recover, you feel like recovery is the self-harm, and you feel like the eating disorder is the self-care. It's everything is so twisted. Mental illness, so over time, And again, like almost 10 years in and out of treatment, in and out, like traveling places to get help. Um, it was kind of like, again, like kind of comparing it to drugs. It's like, you try the drug for the first time and you get this extreme euphoric high, and so then you become addicted and you're constantly chasing the first high and you never fully get there again. And that's kind of, in a way, how I was experiencing my eating disorder, where like maybe the first few years, or sometimes I would get what I needed. It would serve that function. It would serve the purpose of those things I listed. But over time, it dulled. It dulled and dulled, and I wasn't getting what I needed from it anymore. And I still had the thought process. But of course, more skills. I kept learning more skills in treatment, and I kept like meeting people that have recovered, and staying in touch with my friends and seeing other people recover. Um, and I was kind of still stuck, and then seeing people, and watching, every time somebody passed away, it was just another kind of wake up call. Like, wow, I'm feeding into this illness that's killing my friends, that's killing people. And when you have that intimate relationship with your eating disorder, like, you do look at it like a friend. You do look at it as something other than you, a relationship that you want to protect. And you feel like you're betraying it. One of the activities I did, to in my recovery journey, was I wrote a goodbye letter to it, and I wasn't ready. I think that's something really important to note, was like I was never ready to recover, but I kept taking leaps of faith because part of me wanted it, and that was enough. Like, I didn't need to do the 100% to make certain strides. And so in my goodbye letter, like, I even wrote that, like, I'm not ready to let you go. And I was really grateful for it in a way. Like, maybe I'll try to find it and, read it here another video. But I would be lying if I said I wasn't grateful for it. Like, at that time. Like, now I really haven't thought much about it in so long. Like, I haven't talked about it like this in so long. I don't know exactly how I feel about it now. I'm grateful for everything I've been through because I'm better for it and stronger for it. And, um, like I said, it brought me to so many wonderful people that I still keep in touch with. Um, but that will have to be like a journal entry, maybe. I don't know. It's not something I really like to think about anymore. But yeah, at the time I was writing, like, I'm very grateful for you, and that, like, it's time to go. And I also wanted to mention, like, it is important, if you're someone that is trying to let the eating disorder go, to be honest and transparent of where you're at. You don't have to pretend that you hate your eating disorder if you don't. Because it's definitely like a love-hate, for sure. So there was that. Like, I hated it, but I also loved it. So it is often, like, even in other literature and other memoirs, like, people do say that it's like an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship. So because the high was dulling, I was on maybe year 6 or 7, and I was like, I'm doing all the same behaviors. Like, I'm literally clinging to my eating disorder for dear life, and I feel like it's getting up on me because it's not giving me the relief I used to feel. Like, I felt like my eating disorder was walking away from me, and I was like, wait, I'm not ready for you to go yet. Um, it was a very bizarre concept, because most of the time the eating disorder was like the one that was like, holding me on for dear life. Um, and wouldn't let go of me. It's very aggressive, it's very forceful, and it makes you do things you don't want to do. That's like how it feels. So that was part of like the motivation to just stop doing it because I wasn't getting anything out of it anymore. And um I think the voice, like, because of that, the voice was dulling as well. Like, it wasn't as strong. It was kind of like the what the voice was saying was like, it was like a tired voice, and it was like, you're just weak. Like, you can't do it anymore. You might as well just give up because you can't do what I need you to do. You can't, like, that's what it was saying to me. And it was tired of me, and I felt, this is gonna sound really weird, but like, I felt guilty for keeping it around if it didn't want me anymore. Like, I know how that must sound to someone who's never gone through this type of dynamic, or like condition. Um, as specific as an eating disorder, I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired, right? Like, this was my whole life. This was, like, and it's not as simple and as easy as a choice. But for me, like, I'm just talking about like my experience, and like, I do think that I've been through certain things that like traumatized me and electrocuted my like mind in a way. Like, this is the only way I can describe it, where like there's certain things I went through in my mid 20s that really, like, honestly, it changed everything for me. And so it really just like something in my brain like flipped, where I don't know, I just, all of the negative behaviors, I was already like on my way out because of all the hard work I'd done. And it just kind of was like, I cannot keep living this life, and I will not. And I honestly think a lot of it is like the beliefs about myself. Is like, when I started to believe in the real, better things about myself, then the less likely I'm gonna believe the eating disorder brain and even have those thoughts, because they're not what I think anymore. Like, why would I have the thoughts if I don't think that way, right? Like, we like to personify it because it's a mental illness that it is kind of like an attack, like a spiritual attack in a way, or a mental illness attack. And at the same time, a mental illness is a mental illness, and you'd be so surprised how powerful the mind can do with healing from things, healing from trauma, healing from mental illness, healing from depression, anxiety, addictions. I mean, on a research level, it's incredible. Like, you can change the way your brain looks and responds. So I definitely don't want to make it sound like it was just a choice and I just decided one day to like stop. Um, because I'm sure a lot of people are still behaviorally abstinent from eating disorder behaviors and symptoms and still have the thoughts. Because I talked to people who experienced that, where like they've been pretty good at, remaining healthy with their behaviors and not engaging in certain behaviors, and yet they still had the urges and the thoughts. And for me, I think that fear of losing it is what kept me on that, like, holding on to it in my head. Like, what am I, risking, or what am I losing if I let go of this, if I put this to rest, what am I still holding on to? And one of my clients actually told me something really insightful, and it wasn't about this, but I think it applies to this, where they were saying, like, you hold on to something for dear life for so long, and then, all of a sudden you open your hands when you're ready to let it go, and it's not there. And I thought that was, like, really insightful, um, and could apply to a couple different things. The eating disorder stopped protecting me. It stopped giving me the control that I thought I had. It stopped, giving me my identity. It stopped being able to numb my emotions. It stopped giving me a sense of safety. And it wasn't a secret. And a lot of that came with it being like mine and my secret. And it wasn't a secret. I was hurting everyone around me. I was hurting myself. I was disrupting my life. I couldn't be in school for a long period of time. I couldn't focus. My health was suffering. I don't think that it took this for me to stop, because I was already, pretty solid in my recovery when I was like getting my teeth fixed and stuff. But that, after paying to get my teeth fixed and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, I never want to get sick again, and not, like, I never want to make myself get sick again, because, like, a lot of my teeth, not just the front row, but a lot of my teeth, I have crowns and bridges. Thankfully, like, my top teeth are good, but it was just like, I really was like, wow, I really, like, damaged myself, and I had to walk around with broken teeth for a while because I didn't have the money to fix it, and I was so insecure. I mean, my hair was falling out, my nails were always breaking and bleeding. Like, it's not a vanity disease, how a lot of us might think that it's like you just want to lose weight or get thin. It's just, that's not what it is, and even we think that's what it is. Like, I remember writing in my journal, like, all these doctors keep saying it's not about that, but it is. Like, you have the goal weight in your mind, and the goalpost just keeps dropping, and, like, you really are, like, gaslit by this disease. And you think you're in control, and you think that's what it's giving you, when really it's taking over. It promises certain things that it can't keep. I'll keep you safe, I'll make you feel worthy, I'll make you stronger, I'll help you lose weight, I'll give you control, I'll help you cope. That's what the eating disorder promises, but it's not sustainable. So it's hard to recover and make those steps, because it's almost like admitting that you were deceived the whole time, and that, wow, do I have to give up all these years and all this that I've invested into this relationship? So sometimes, like, when we tie our worth to our weight or how much or little we eat, and we practice, like, recovery skills, or we go to treatment, it can be a gradual thing for those thoughts to weaken. And sometimes it can be like a flipped switch over years and years of practice and familiarity with these concepts. And I think I've experienced both of those. Like, I mean, in and out of treatment for almost, for 8 years, sometimes it just takes something for it to something to shift. It became a lot less like, being thin or keeping my eating disorder and whatever it's getting me is worth sacrificing my life. Like, you really get into that mindset. It became more of like, I want my life back more than what my eating disorder is able to offer me anymore. My life was giving me more than my eating disorder could, at that point, that I was making, those changes to leave it. Everyone's like recovery is different and everyone's eating disorder is different, but it was definitely something that's been on my mind and has been coming up in my circles more recently, and I just felt like maybe I'll share it. Like, it's very vulnerable. I don't really like to share about it, and I'm very private in my life at this point right now, and I'm a lot more private than I used to be, about it. Like, I don't really talk about it in my personal life. Most people that I don't know, I've struggled like that. There's this surrender and there's this willingness of like, are you willing to surrender to your life and to surrender the eating disorder? Like, you don't have to be ready. It's not a feeling, it's a decision. Like, readiness is not a feeling, it's a decision. And it's not just one decision, it's a decision that you continue to make over and over throughout the day. And you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to fully be in it and always want recovery. Like, it's so normal to not want recovery. It's so normal to try to bargain and to be like, how do I keep this in my life and still function? I think a lot of people go through that when they have an unhealthy behavior. Like, how do I functionally continue to drink? How do I functionally continue to use these drugs and still have a life? And often one of them catches up to you and you can't sustain it the way you think you can, and you have to make a choice. And what's more important, in my opinion, is going to depend on how worthy you think you are and how capable you think you are into living a certain life. So, like I said, there's so much more I could say about all this, and I'm very far removed from it, so it is hard to completely say everything I need to say right now, but I did say a lot, and I just feel like it's good to end it here. And maybe I'll do another video about it at some point. If there is any questions or if you're struggling, I encourage you to maybe comment down below and encourage each other. And if you need any advice or any insight from me, if you want me to do another video on this topic and answer some more questions, maybe, I'm more than willing to do that. I definitely don't want to act like, oh, I'm so beyond that. Like, this is not something where I feel like I'm trying to act like I'm better than that or anything. It's just hard. It comes from a lot of pain and a lot of trauma, right? Like, there's so much that I'm traumatized by from my eating disorder, from what I've done and been through because of it, and the things I've seen and the losses I've had. And I've already kind of went through that grieving process with my eating disorder, and it's like weird to even say my eating disorder because I don't have one anymore, which is like amazing. If I really sat and thought about it, I would get like super overwhelmed and emotional and kind of like, wow, I sometimes, like, very rare occasions I'll like be like, wow, I can't believe that was my life and I can't believe I went through that. And I just feel bad. I feel bad for like having to like go through that and to like feel like I had to put myself through it. There's still more I want to learn about it, and there's still more insight I want to learn about it, in my own journey and also like in my career. But I think I'm just like burnt out. I think with the whole topic, I was just like so burnt out with like when I tell you, it was my entire identity. Um, so I'm so grateful to be released of that. And sometimes, like years and years of gradual changes might feel like an overnight switch. Um, in hindsight, when things finally all kind of come together and are like, you know what? I think this is it. I think that I'm 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 done living like this. I can't do it anymore. I don't have it in me to commit to this. For lack of a better word, you know. So thank you for listening, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.